Hello everyone, Ethanator here with Hangar 9, and today I'm super excited because I'm going to be bringing you the first of several Hangar 9 Back to Balsa Series videos. And what no better way to start it off than with the new version of the CubCrafters XCub 60cc. So as you can see here, this is a blue, white, and black scheme on the CubCrafters XCub 60cc. You probably are familiar with the previous version, which had the red, white, and black scheme on it, but for the 2023 season to 2024 season and so on, they decided to substitute it for the blue, white, and black scheme, which I think looks incredible, and I'm very excited to be bringing you a build video on this airplane. The build itself is going to be divided into several videos based on the specific area I'm working on the XCub 60cc. So, you got the power plant, you got the wings, you got the tail, you got the fuselage, so on and so forth. This video is going to give you an explanation of what I am running in terms of engine and electronics in this XCub 60cc, as well as some basic surface prep along with control horn installation, just getting everything ready to work on in its specific given area on the airplane. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and give you a rundown of my setup. For the engine, I'm going to be running a DLE 55RA, which is a rear exhaust, single-cylinder gas engine, and the propeller that I'm going to be using in conjunction with the DLE 55RA is the Falcon 23x8 carbon gas propeller. For the servos, I'm going to be using the Spectrum A6320 servos all around the surfaces on the XCub 60cc, along with the Spectrum A6330 servo for the throttle. For the servo arms on the ailerons, I'm going to be using Spectrum aluminum servo arms, and for the rest of the surfaces and the throttle, I'm going to be using these Dubro super strength servo arms right here. And lastly, for the receiver, I'm going to be using the Spectrum AR20400T 20-channel power-safe receiver paired with the Spectrum NX20 transmitter. For other things such as servo and battery extensions, gas tank, kill switches, I'm going to be listing all of that in the description along with their appropriate links. Alright, so with the explanation of my setup on the XCub 60cc out of the way, let's go ahead and get the control horns prepped and installed onto the surfaces. When unboxing the XCub 60cc, or any airplane with UltraCote for that matter, it's very common to see wrinkles in the covering. This is a common result of the variation in temperature, pressure, and humidity that the airframe itself goes through in the shipping process. It's a good exercise to go over the covering of the entire airplane with a heat gun or even a covering iron for that matter in order to eliminate these wrinkles and help the covering stick to the wood. The first part of the build is going to be installing the control arms into their respective surfaces. As you can see here, Hangar 9 labels the control arms. So you have your aileron control arms, your elevator control arms, and your rudder control arms. You're also going to see several bags of hardware that are going to contain the contents that you see here, and in that you are going to find these ball links. These are going to be utilized in this step. You're also going to see another hardware bag full of these metric screws. You're going to find the M3x15 screw right here that's also going to be used for this step, along with the nylon lock nuts. This is going to be found in this parts bag here, so just keep in mind to have all of these necessary parts in order to make sure that the control arms fit correctly into the surface. The aileron and elevator control arm assembly and installation process is going to be the exact same, so I'm going to show you how to install one aileron control arm, and you can apply that method to the other aileron and the elevator. So the first step that we're going to do is we're going to take some 120 grit sandpaper or something of equal roughness, something basically that's rough enough to roughen up the surface of the control arm here. It's basically just going to be this portion where you see the lettering. You don't want to do it up here because the epoxy is not going to be up here. The epoxy is going to be installed right here, and you want a rough surface in order for the epoxy to bond correctly. As you can see, with some moderate pressure, we have the paint removed and the fiberglass is roughened up in this portion of the control arm. You can now do this for the other one. With two aileron control arms sanded, we can now connect the two together using the M3x15 screw along with the ball link and the locking nut on the other side. This ensures that both control arms are lined up correctly when we install them onto the aileron. Please keep in mind that this is not the final assembly, just a means of keeping the control arms together. The ball links will be removed and reinstalled later in the correct way. Using the M2.5mm hex driver along with some pliers to hold down the locking nut, you can see that we have this assembly here. Mixing up some 15-minute epoxy, we can apply it to the roughened part of the aileron control arm. You don't need a whole lot, so here I am using a toothpick in order to coat it evenly. You can also apply a small amount of epoxy into the slots of the control surface in which you are installing the control arms on. You can now install the control arms into their respective slots. Ensure that the curve of the control arm is pointing towards the servo slot like in the video. Be sure to have a paper towel or cloth with some alcohol in order to remove any epoxy that seeps out of the slots. You also want to ensure that the control arms are sitting flush along the surface. Now that the installation process for the aileron control horn is complete, repeat this process for the other aileron and the elevator. The last control arms that you need to install are the ones for the rudder, and as you can see, it is a pull-pull setup, so it's going to be a little bit different than the aileron and elevator installation process. Disregard the wrinkles here, but as you can see with this control arm, there's two given slots, just like the aileron and elevator. The only difference is you are going to slide the control arm all the way through until it stops right here. Repeat the process to install the other control arm for the rudder. With the test fit complete, you can now remove the rudder control arms, and as you see here, I covered the painted part with some painter's tape right here, so then the only exposed part is the place that we are going to be sanding down so the epoxy can bond correctly. When the control arms are sanded down and applied with epoxy, you can reinsert them into the rudder. And just like the aileron and elevator control arms, you can confirm that the rudder control arms are aligned correctly by connecting them with the ball link. With the control arms successfully installed to the ailerons, elevator, and rudder, it's time to continue the build on the XCub 60cc in the next couple of videos. So be sure to leave a like on this one. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.